Yeah, I think I'm gonna finish my story already. Last 2 weeks already, and that Camellia story. So from the red Camellia to the weathered Camellia, and interesting enough is the ending of the story is kind of surprise.
I
Uh,
can't wait.
I left the Yunnan program was 1979 and escaped from there, and then stay in Shanghai as like a fugitive for 3 years. Then 1982 I come into United States. So I still contact with Mei, but just maybe one or two letters in a couple of years or something like that. And then when I asked her about Lee, and she was always said we don't want to talk about some very unhappy, sad history. He said that we basically, he said that you know what I'm talking about. So I got a message. So she didn't want to talk about that. She said she was get married. Her husband also was born in Shanghai, and speak the same dialogue I did. And then they have a daughter. That was a one child per family, so they have a one daughter. And the daughter was working in Beijing. Some before was in Yunnan newspaper. Then eventually go to Beijing, some magazine as editor. So it seems like they are okay. She said that she worked in the government. I told her she was selected as a work for that time as a revolutionary committee. They eventually back to the normal, the provincial government. So she was in charge department, which was the people complaining and ingest stuff and write it to them. So she was in charge of that department. And then they sent her to some private sector, because that time, after the Nixon visiting China, so opened the door. So the reform and the Deng Xiaoping, that time the Chairman Deng would start the reform. And so they allowed the state-owned the industry, like a tobacco industry. That in Yunnan they have produced very good tobaccos. So the cigarette, and they can be a partner with individual and private sector. So they sent her there to representing the state and the partners. And then that was a very famous company, And interesting enough that they also named the new products, the cigarette is a red Camellia. Anyway, and then later on, she told me she was invited me that time to go to China visiting them, and they have a lot of people investing in that different business. And somehow I was not ready to go, so I didn't go there. They have a bigger conference, I think, basically the investment opportunity. And then afterwards, all of a sudden, she get out of that place and back to work for the government. She said she became a lawyer and was in charge of the Justice Department. I said, wow, So I remember she never, China was no law school or anything, no law. She said she had to study and then pass the examination, so they will certify her as a lawyer and then in charge of the Justice Department. So I asked her the Lee again because I always, something I want to know how long he been in jail, when he get out, or anything happened to him. But she just never talked about that. And she said that, as she knows, he's okay, and he also married and have 2 sons, and didn't talk about anything else. So, but I always thinking about that Camellia, think about their story, and because I learned a lot from their love story, how tragic it is, and what's the environment in China for people and to have their love life. So I decided in Yunnan, I said, I'm never going to involve with anybody. So therefore, I don't have to make such a tragic choice. And also, you're going to set the rest of your life. So I decided I'm not going to have any involvement. I'm not going to date anybody or anything. If I leave, I think I'm going to leave the place one of the days. And I didn't know which was very bad. It's like an escape from there. And being sexually assaulted, I escaped from there, that kind of. So I never can imagine we'll end up with that kind of endings. But anyway, I still, in my life in Yunnan, the 10 years, their story always touched me a lot, and especially that Camellia. So 2004, I bought a new house, so I planted Camellia in my backyard. So every February, March, and just blossom. And before, I have a rose garden, and before my rose garden, they're still sleeping in February and March. But the Camellia is the only one with blossom. Because I look at the flower, I always think about Lei and think about Mei. So 2005, I decided to go to Yunnan and to visiting them. But I don't know I able to see Lei because nobody ever tell me what's happened to him. And definitely I wrote up to Mei. I say I wanted to visiting. First I go to Shanghai and then visiting the place I was born. And that was the last time because after that they tore down everything. There's no memories. And so then I wanted Mei to arrange a trip for me to go to the village, the camp I used to, there for 5 years. And then Mei said to me, that I can arrange you in different places. You may interested, your husband may interested, but not to that village because they still don't have any proper role. And then you get there, you had to, there's no place to stay. So I think those presents, they're still there. And maybe I can stay one night or whatever, but I don't know. My husband will like that. And because he's a Westerner, is not a Chinese, so I don't think that kind of primitive condition, like say don't have a bathroom or something, that kind of like a bush stop, that kind of things. So I say, well, that's fine, maybe next time when they have build the infrastructure, have a directly airport. And actually, right now they do, afterwards. But that year, 2005, I just get to the Kunming, and then Mei said that she met me in the airport because she is a big shot, is a communist officer, the government, the head of a justice department. So she have a car chauffeur, so she picked me up from the airport. And then in the car, I asked her about Lei because she coming with just the chauffeur and nobody else there. So I think maybe it's convenient, not in front of her husband, and to talk about Lei. And so I asked her. She said that I will give you a big surprise. So so I said, what? She said, you will see it. And then so we stay in the the hotel is by the lake called the Jie Lake, and it's the hotel near across the street of that thousand years Camellia tree. So it's kind of symbolic, and also it gives me back all the memories. So I appreciate that she arranged that. And then she said that tomorrow I will come in about 4 or 5 o'clock. Said that Lee also will come in 4 or 5 o'clock, and just by ourselves, not a husband, not a wife, and not the kids. We said that, so 3 of us. He said, your husband doesn't speak Chinese, and maybe he didn't want to join because we talk about something, the old times. And if he liked to, and that's fine, welcome. And you can translate it to him. I said, okay, that's a good idea. So I was very excited to anticipate this event because we supposed to met, 3 of us supposed to met 1969. So after that many years, that's right now it's 2005 that time, right? And that many years, we all go through tremendous and lifetime journey. And then we met again. It's lots of things that we can talk about. So what I was thinking, interesting enough, I was thinking, what if I met them and they're a couple, they're married in 1969. So that's what's going to be now, right? But so anyway, I still don't know what's happened to Lee. So that day, about 3 o'clock, I got back to the hotel. We were touring in other places, and we just rushed home because I really, really anticipate on this meetings. And I told my husband about their story, and he also was very interested because, and that's is something, is a love story, Romeo and Juliet story and Chinese version of. And so about 3:30, the front desk would call me, say that somebody there. So I went down. It's Lee. I haven't seen him since 1969, that many years, I couldn't recognize him. But he would recognize the long way. He called my nickname and little sister. He said that. And so we were just tears, come out because I just don't know what we're supposed to say or whatever from when we begin. And so he brought me, he took out a manila envelope, and he said that this is the letter, and since 1966, December, we met in Beijing. That's our correspondence. And everything in that envelope. Oh, it's like in a time capsule. I was so touched. I just cannot stop crying. For him, I keep this from jail for 8 years jail and move different places, still keep that. So I told my husband, I said that's a letter I wrote that many years ago with our correspondence as a pen pal. So he was very excited. And he said, I'm so sorry I didn't bring anything like some special gift from this program or anything. My husband said, you brought the most valuable thing. It's a priceless gift to us. So he was very surprised because he said, I can't believe a Westerner and English speaking, you translate the things, he answered that perfectly, I say, yeah, I understand a lot of things. I told him about all the Cultural Revolution, he's very sentiment and sensitive person. Also himself was in the Nazis concentration camp. And the same age, like I was 16 in the labor camp, he was 16 in the concentration camp. So we have it's different country, different time, different camp. There's the similarities. So we have a lot of things in common, the feelings, right? And and then I asked the Mei, probably 4 o'clock, and Mei come in, and she had the chauffeur. So she told that her chauffeur, he said that you go home, I go home by myself, and so he dropped her off, and so she just coming. So 3 of us met. So we were finding a place in the lobby, and have a tea and started talking about it. And they don't know each other, no contact for a long time. One day, May look at their government, the Justice Department he worked for, and found in that government directory and have a Lee's name. So she couldn't believe it. Because, so she said that it's the same name, because lots of people have the same kind of name, right? And so she just can't believe it. And she just also, she told me her heart pumping when she dialed the telephone number from the directory and to talk to him. And well, bingo, that's him. Actually, he becoming and head of the culture department. So how did this whole thing was happen after the things, also representing in China, just at that time they have a conservative and rebellions, then up and down, who took the power, another took the power back or whatever. So the end, and they all end up with the same government, and they all rising and becoming, it didn't just being perished. They just survived and the rising and become head of those departments. That's a very surprising endings. And then they told me.
Wow, what a story!
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
really,
So
really, what a story.
Yeah.
So they were both torn apart, persecuted, and then end up in the cultural office.
Yeah, and one is the head of the Justice Department, one is the head of the Culture Department.